Hello, everyone, and welcome to our GEG Ontario presentation on this evening in May. My name is Jocelyn Curvin, and I am so thrilled to kick off our May spring cleaning session this evening. I'm so glad you're joining us as we share some tips and ideas for organizing our Google Drive. Welcome to our YouTube Live event. All right, we've got a lot of fun things for you this evening, but we want to start our evening in a good way with our land acknowledgement. So in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, GEG Ontario acknowledges that we are gathered today on the traditional lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. And you might be joining us from land that is shared with other communities. And if you're not sure who shares the land that you're on, there is a link called native-land.ca where you can take a look and see what communities you share the land with. So welcome, and we look forward to continuing our evening in a good way this evening.
Oops, you're on mute, Jen.
I'll keep going for a moment while we sort out technical difficulties as Jen, we get Jen muted or unmuted.
Is it
there we
only
go. I think
Wednesday?
It is right. Is it only Wednesday? Is it still only May?
It's still only May and it's Wednesday.
We're all feeling it.
We are so grateful that you are joining us. We are the GEG Ontario leaders. GEGs are independently run communities of educators who inspire and empower each other to meet the needs of students through technology, both in the classroom and beyond. We invite you to introduce yourself in the chat. We already see Anna Maria and a few others. This is the GEG Ontario Leader Group, and look for information. Connect with us. We'll talk to you about how to connect with us in case you are interested in joining the team next year. We have a wide range and diversity of educators from across Ontario, elementary, secondary, and independent school. We have administrators, and it's just such a great a great team to be a part of. To connect with us, we encourage you to join our mailing list, bit.ly/GEG Ont group. Our website is where you're going to find all of the resources for this evening. I will throw them in the chat, and you are probably watching from YouTube. You can also share your learning on Twitter or Instagram. The handle is @GEG Ontario, and you can use the hashtag GEG Ontario to share your learning for tonight. You can also use the chat in YouTube to ask questions or to participate in the discussion. This evening, we're excited that Kathy and Inil are going to be leading the charge here. So take it away, Kathy and Inil.
Thanks, Jen and Jocelyn. So my name is Kathy Lott. Very happy to be here tonight. Happy to have everyone joining in. I'm a retired / rewired principal working on this team, and I'm doing some work currently as a retired principal with OPC and School Mental Health Ontario. So very happy to be here because organization is definitely something I need in my life and need in my drive. So I hope that some of the tips that we share that you benefit from as well.
Good evening, everyone, and I'm very happy to be co-presenting with Kathy today. My name is Inil Paraja, and I'm currently a vice principal at a K-6 school in Toronto. And one of the things that got me through the pandemic is the relationships within the school that that I've built, and that has helped me get through. And really looking forward to helping you get started on the Marie Kondo cleaning of our drive today.
All right. So just a housekeeping tip here. So if you do have any questions, please do add them to the chat box. And as well, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll be notified about any upcoming events and additional webinars. So I always like to start any kind of connection with the group with a check-in, just a mental health check-in. I'm sure most of you have been doing lots of these with your staff and with your students. So this is a dog check-in for today. Just take a peek here at these 9, and if you can add in the chat which one you're feeling most like right now. And then Jen or Jocelyn, if you can feed back to me. I'm not on the YouTube side, but I think I'm definitely a 4 right now. I'm feeling kind of chill, listening to some music.
Nice. I think I'm feeling kind of, some days this week, I think I'm sitting between 1 and 5, I think. Okay. It's a bit, yeah, I'm having some days.
I feel like number 2 today because I have not worn makeup in over a month. So
glamming it up for the YouTube. Love it.
So I'm feeling number 5 as well. I have to say, I can't. It's Wednesday in May, and I was muted and all the things. A couple of participants, Anna Maria, welcome. Thanks for being here again. Is a 5. We've got Lindsay, who's happy but almost falling over at a 9. Love that. Chantel, who's actually one of the other GEG leaders, is a 9. Welcome, Chantel. And Bernice is also a 9. Seems to be a popular one.
Okay. And again, just a quick, thanks for those feedback, people. Thanks for participating. Just a quick note on why we do feelings check-ins. It's a key social emotional learning competency is self-awareness. So when we bring this to our students, we talk about how we feel and feelings all over the map. It just helps normalize feelings and gives kids a sense that you're there to listen in a true, authentic way, and that individual needs can be met and people can make connections amongst who's feeling. Just a fun thing to do. I know sometimes staff will roll their eyes or kids might roll their eyes, but I think it's very much needed these days for sure to do the check-in. So thanks for that. We'll go on.
I teach high school, and I know I've charged my students with doing the check-in, and they are so creative. So that's another idea. Sorry, I'll be quiet now, but it really works well.
So here are some of our goals for tonight, and it will give you an opportunity to sort of get started in thinking about organizing and cleaning up your drive. And I do this every year, similar to organizing my classroom desk or my classroom, putting away things and getting rid of things that I don't need. I often find that this sort of eases the transition for me in September when I have that drive that's nice and clean. So here are some of the goals for today, some of the skills that we'll be touching upon, and they're all hyperlinked. So this Google slide deck, when posted on the GEG website, it's there for you to access. And if you need sort of a little refresher during the summertime, just click on the specific skill that you're looking for, and it'll take you directly to that section of the slide deck. So we're really looking forward to kind of going over these with you today and getting a head start on it.
All right, so just a little bit here. If you imagine, just very generally, if you imagine your Google Drive just like a file cabinet, so inside of our Google Drive, we're going to have our file folders, and inside of those file folders, we will have our individual documents. So throughout the next hour, we're going to take a look at how we can personalize some of that, or how you can personalize some of this for yourself so you can easily find things. And there's our namesake. We heard her name at the beginning of the show here. She always says, if this one does not spark joy, throw it out. But we know as educators, we can't do that. But we certainly can make sure that we are feeling comfortable and confident in what we have in terms of things that spark joy for our organization. So let's get started.
So just a quick overview before we get started on the Google Drive. So Google Drive is a cloud-based sort of storage solution that allows you to put in your files and folders and access it really from anywhere using a tablet, your smartphone, or your computer. And you can edit and access these files using any of those devices. So for today, I want you to really think about your Google Drive as the electronic Google Drive as sort of your filing cabinet. And as with a physical filing cabinet, you would have folders, and within the folders, you will have your documents. So similar sort of thing, but in terms of your electronic version that you can access from anywhere. So 3 main areas in your Google Drive that will help you with your organization. And first is the left-hand sort of menu that you see, where you see the words priority, my drive, and so on. So that's the left-hand side that allows you to create and organize your documents and folders. The other part, the second part, is the middle section of the Google Drive that you see. And this is sort of organized as a quick access, all of the files that you often go to at the top. And then at the bottom, all of your folders. And at the very top, the top section allows you to search, sort, and manage your documents in the Google Drive. So those are the 3 sort of sections we want your eye to sort of go to today. And most of the things that we're going to talk about today really is housed in your drive, in the My Drive section. So this is a great little slide taken from the Google Drive support sheet. So it kind of outlines all the different parts onto your main page. The next part that we're going to talk about is really not for you to worry about where your folders are and where your files are. Because when we talk about organization, one of the things that you will need to do at the end of the year is to organize all of those documents that you created that are just sitting in your drive. You want to take those and you want to put them into a folder. And so the drive has folders. And then the folders can have subfolders. So you're going to take all those documents and you're going to organize them. And you want the documents to be easily accessible, labeled. And those documents really can be anything. It could be any of your Google app docs. So like your Google Docs, your slides, your sheet. It could be videos. It could be PDFs. It's any of those documents that you have in your drive. So all of your folders are going to be under the My Drive. And you don't really have to remember where you put them, because as you can see at the very top is sort of like a little path. If you can think of the Russian sort of nesting dolls, right? So it kind of gives you that path. So at no point do you have to memorize it or jot it down somewhere. It's like a breadcrumb. You can follow the path to your documents and you can figure out which folder it is housed in. There are some interesting sort of icons that we've circled here that gives you sort of a quick tip about those folders, like the share. If you click on it, it will tell you who it's shared with. And then the I icon at the top is really cool because it will actually give you all the sort of the name of the document, when it was created, who created it, who has access to it, but also the activity part of it. The details and the activity also tells you who's accessed those folders and who's worked on those documents. So those are really cool little details about your folders. If you forget, you know, who created it or who worked on it, who did I share it with, those are some really quick ways to get a snapshot view.
Okay, so let's take a look at some of the tips to see some of the mess in your drive. So the next 2 slides, I've got some screenshots to highlight what to do as a first step in organizing your drive. It's kind of like cleaning up the socks on your floor. So one of the first steps in organizing your drive is to get rid of some files that you might have duplicates of before you begin to file. So this is showing if you go to the search bar at the top of your screen and enter the word copy. And this will bring up files for you that you've saved a copy of. And when you do this, you may see duplicates. So for example, deleting them now, as I've kind of got the little icon there, before we get into the organization is a step in cleaning up before we really get to some of the work of the files and the folders. You will likely see files that you no longer need at this point as well. So getting rid of them now is a helpful first step in organizing your Google Drive. And you just right click on them and you can select remove to add them to the trash. And then on the next slide there, as well, after you try putting copy in the search bar, you can also put in untitled into the search bar. So again, this is just another thing I like to do as part of the spring cleaning. And it's just a simple step to take before some additional organization. When you put the search, when you put the word untitled, you'll see all the files that you've started and not yet named. So I always tend to have lots of those because of, well, all sorts of reasons, interruptions during the day and whatever, but it's amazing how fast the untitled files will gain speed in your drive. So it's just clutter, right? If you've got something in there that's untitled, you won't be able to find it. It's just clutter. So just take a couple of minutes to review all of your untitled files. Maybe you want to title them. Maybe you just want to delete them. But basically a good rule of thumb is an organized Google Drive should not have any files that are not yet named and that are untitled. And again, just a note, when you delete files from Google Drive, they're not deleted permanently. They're just taken to the trash or the bin folder where they stay until you empty your trash bin manually. So if your Google Drive is showing full, you may need to empty the bin to clear the storage. Okay, so we're getting there. A few things have been cleaned up. The weekend says we're getting there. Let's move on. I love that GIF. You say it all the time.
So now you're able to navigate within the Google Drive, and you have found the documents and you've labeled them, you've given them the right names, you've gotten rid of those duplicates. So what's next? So when you're getting organized, one of the things that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create folders to put things into. For example, at the end of the year, you might create a folder that's named 2020-2021 school year. And you might then create even subfolders within that. For example, it could be your classes, your subjects, your co-curricular activities, maybe school admin, PDs that you have attended. So you will have to create those folders, whether it be the parent folder or the subfolders within it. And once you've created these, you can put as many, you can drag and drop and put all of those documents in there. But how do you create these folders? The great thing is that there's more than one way, and there's multiple ways depending on your comfort level or your frequency of doing it one way. So the first and easy way is the add new. So when you click on that add new within your drive, it will just create a new folder and it will ask you to put a title on there. Another way is using a shortcut. So if you do Shift Z, you can create, Shift F, you can create a folder, F for folder. So Shift F, you create the folder. And then the next way is to go into a parent folder, and that little chevron that you see, that little triangle, if you click on that, you can create a new folder as well. So there's multiple ways depending on where you want to create the folder within your drive. Now, when you create folders in your drive, it alphabetizes them based on the first letter of the name of the file. So it will automatically, put any file name with A at the very top and then go alphabetically. But there are ways that you can organize your Google Drive, your folders, based on, what you want access to or what you want to see first. And by putting a numerical prefix in front of the name, you're able to then order it that way as well. And we'll show you that, show you sort of a concrete example of that later. Another great thing is renaming. So just because you've named the file once doesn't mean it has to stay that way. You can rename whenever you want. And again, there are multiple ways to rename your file. There's the shortcut with N on it. You just hover over and click on the letter N and you can rename it, or you can right click and rename it. We've also added sort of a little shortcut page for all of the different things on this slide deck as well that you can access later. So this is what we were talking about in terms of the subfolders and the paths. So to create a subfolder, all that means is a folder within a folder, and you can see some examples here that we have. So within my drive, my folder is Glamorgan Public School, which is my school, and within that I have subfolders, and it gets nested even within that as well. So when you are creating a subfolder, the easiest way is to choose the parent folder, and then you create a new folder within it. But you don't have to. You could just create a folder and then move it wherever you want it to be. So again, multiple pathways. If you forget where that folder is, like I mentioned before, that path at the very top is like your breadcrumb. So if you click on any folder, it will show you that path starting from my drive and all the way. And if it's too long, it will truncate it. And those 3 dots is the truncated version. So if you click on that, it will sort of expand it for you like you see here. And that's a great way to find out where your things are as well. The chevron at the very end of it, that little triangle, if you right click on that, you could create folders as well within that. So again, you just have to find the one that works for you, and then you'll figure out how and where to place it. So in terms of moving folders, there are, again, multiple ways. The easiest way is to drag and drop. You essentially click on a folder and you just drag it to another folder, or you click on a document, you click on all those untitled or titled documents and you just drag it to the folder. So that's one way. Another way that you can move your documents is to use a shortcut. So if you hold down Shift and Z, it will sort of a little dialog box will pop up and it'll say, well, where do you want to put this file? And then you can choose where you want the file to go. And then the last way is to sort of right click, and then it will give you, if you click on those 3 dots at the top, you will see sort of this dialog box with all of the different options, and you choose move to. And then again, you choose the path, you choose where you want it to go. So all those documents can be moved into folders in many different ways. Before you do this, Kathy, should I stop and do my little demo?
Absolutely.
Okay, let me give it a try here. All right, so here you see my drive. And as you can see, in my drive, I have many different folders. And if I click on any of these folders, that little chevron, you can see then I have subfolders within it. And then I also have other folders within it. So in order to create, so the first thing that we talked about was creating folders, because I too have all these files that I have to move at the end of the year. I would need to find a spot for them because obviously I was too rushed and I didn't do it. So one of the ways that I could create a folder is by clicking on this add new, and then I would choose folder. That's one way. The second way is by just clicking Shift F, and then I could create a new folder. And the third way is if I click on a parent folder, I see this little chevron, and I can now click on it and create a new folder. And the new folder will be placed within Glamorgan, within that folder. So, I don't have to move it again. So that's the way to create the folder. Now we talked about the path. So at the top here, you'll see the path. So this is class organization folder. It's in the Glamorgan folder, which is in my drive. Now I may want to click on a particular document that's in that folder. So you can see now it's like nesting, right? Even more and more and more. So I'm just going to go back here because there's nothing in there. But if you see here at the top, you'll see my path. And here are those 3 dots that I talked about. If I click on it, it will give me, it will sort of expand it out. It'll say this folder is in this folder, which is in this one, which is in this one, which is in my drive. Right? So it's a good way. You don't have to remember where things are. You can just find it. It's at your fingertips. Then you have the shared. So if I wanted to know who is this folder shared with, I can click on this. I'm not going to do that just because I have personal information there. And here the activity, I'll do a real quick one if I can. It will, if I click on this, it will tell me, it's only me because I've only accessed it, but it'll tell me all of the things that are in there and who has accessed it, which is a great way for you to figure out, do I want to keep this or do I want to get rid of it? And I like how these chevrons can be collapsed. So if it's in any time it's too much for you, just collapse it so that it's sort of neat and tidy, and then expand it if you need to, right? So you can play around with that as well. If I want to rename a folder, I will just have to, I can right click on it and then I can just rename it. That's one way. Another way is for me to, I believe it's hover and new. I can rename it that way as well. You can rename things at any time. So we talked about the order of things. And as you can see here, most of my folders have been organized alphabetically. However, I don't want to scroll down to find my G and my V folder with those 2 letters. So what I have done is I've put a prefix in front of it with numbers, which kind of determines the order of appearance. Okay. Let me just check what else I wanted to show you. I think that's it for now, Kathy, and then I'll go back to the sharing.
Okay, thanks, Danielle. So I will go to share. I think I am sharing my screen, right? Are you seeing my drive right now?
No, I'm seeing what we are seeing is the slide deck where you're going to talk about adding colors, numbers, and icons.
Okay, so
would you want to do those slides first and then share? It's up to you.
I think, is Jen switching it over? So, Jen? Oh, it's frozen.
So we see your tabs now.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my drive. Are you seeing my drive now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, fabulous. Okay, so Iniel, when she was showing her drive, we saw all sorts of colors. So I wanted just to show how to do that. I wanted to show you how to color a folder and then also how to add an icon. So I tend to number, and I was mentioning prefixes and numericals, numbers at the beginning, because Google Drive, as she mentioned, just organizes alphabetically. So I do use numbers, also use colors. I'm just going to go into students. My subfolders, I don't typically add color to, but for example, I want to show, let's take, say Pride Month is coming up. So there might be many files inside of this folder that I will be accessing on a regular basis. So I'm going to highlight the folder. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to change color and I'm going to choose purple here. Also, I think in terms of renaming this, I'm going to add a 1 to put at the front. But before I do that, I'm also going to add an emoji. I like using Emojipedia. There's lots of different ones where you can grab icons from. But if I just come, now when I toggle screen, are you seeing my rainbow here? Are you seeing my Emojipedia piece here?
We see your web browser where you're searching for rainbow.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So let's see what comes up here. And what I like about this one is it's not only the icons that you're looking for, but Emojipedia, it's the description of what it means as well. And then you just have a copy and paste. So you just simply click on copy. I can then go back to my folder. I'm now going to again right click on this folder, the Pride folder, in terms of renaming it. So I'd said I was going to put a 1 there, and then as well, then I will just paste here and click OK, and then it puts it at the front. So that's just something, again, I don't typically color code my subfolders, but in terms of the drive, I definitely use colors here. And they probably don't mean anything to you, but I could tell you offhand what, you know, you learn these systems. I've seen some people use, you know, in terms of the rainbow color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, in terms of where they are. I've seen people use like a stoplight type thing. They'll use green for their folders if it's something that they're currently working on. So it's again, it's just a way to personalize it and totally up to you. But some options, again, adding the numbers, adding colors, and adding different emojis. I know probably most people are familiar with Slides Mania. There's also one called Icons Mania. There's one called Get Emoji. And I know Chrome has extensions as well. But I personally like the Emojipedia, just something to try there.
There is a question, if I don't know if now is a good time. Chantel's asking grid view or list view, which is best? And there are some people in the chat who are responding, but not sure if you wanted to respond to that.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to show that because what you see in Eniel's was different than mine. So I prefer the grid. Again, it's just personal preference, but I can click here and you will get the list view as that's what my partner was using. So it's just, you just click on this little icon and you can toggle back and forth in terms of which is better. Again, it's just personal preference, I think. What do you guys use most? Oops.
I find the list for me is sort of like that linear. I like the linear nature of it in terms of finding my files. I get confused with the grid a little bit.
Okay.
We have Chantel saying that grid view helps her find what she's looking for. We have Jocelyn who shared that it depends on what she's looking for, that the list view works overall, but if she's looking for a file, she needs to switch. And Anna Maria also shared that opinion as well.
Yeah. Okay. So something else, that's a good question. Thanks for bringing it up. Something else, I'm just going to go right into the next slide then in terms of sharing. Here, what I'd like to do, this is what I call my personal assistant. And if you've never used this before, you will love this. So in the, are you seeing my drive here still with all my colors?
Yes, we are.
Or just need to double check. So up here in the main search bar, again, you click on this little guy here and say you're looking for, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know where that file is, but I know it had the word, I don't know, mental health in it. So look, you can search by has the words mental health. Oops, you can put in whatever you like here and it will pull it up. Also, say you're like, oh, I don't even remember what words it had in it, but I know it was by my lead teacher and I know her name. So I would go to, again, maybe I'm doing this a little too fast, but I would go to owner and you click down here and I know her name. So I would click on specific person and I would enter her name here. So anything that was created by that teacher that they've shared with you, you would be able to find that file. Sometimes maybe you're like, oh, I don't know who created it. I don't know any of the key words, but I do remember it was, let's see, I do remember it was an audio file, for example. So again, you can search by type as well. So just seeing here, you can search by type. If it was an audio file, I would maybe go down here, click on audio, and then hit the search, and you would find it. So it just is another way, very intuitive, that Google has for you to help you find these lost files. You can search by type, you can search by owner, the specific person one I tend to use a lot. You can search by location if it was in the trash, or if you start it. We're going to get to start in a little moment. Search by when it was modified. Maybe hasn't been modified, in a while, so you could, check those dates. Again, has the words is a helpful one. So again, your personal assistant is there awaiting for you in the key search bar under this little arrow here, or chevron. So I think we've done advanced search, we've done the emojis, the colors. I think we can go on in the presentation now, Jen.
Do you, because I have
access to it, Jen, so we can just put it back on me.
So I'll add yours back on.
There's a lot of backstage manipulation happening, so thank you so much, Jen and Jocelyn, for doing that and being here with us.
Yes.
I can't do this, so it gets really difficult for me. So we all like a little Matthew McConaughey gif, right? All right, all right, all right. Let's get going, Kathy.
Okay. Okay, so transitioning into next school year, we wanted to talk about some tips here. So for me, my mindset, I just need to think about, again, in terms of organizing your Google Drive, what are those key folders that I want to pull together? And Iniel again mentioned, if I named it something, I might want to rename it. Now, lingo changes, acronyms change all the time. So this is a time to kind of update some of your folder names. But these are, if there's administrators online, these are some of the folder names that I think about in terms of transitioning to next school year. And then if we can go to the next slide, what I do is when I have those folders together, I just put them all into, like I make a master folder at the end of each year. Around this time, I will start making a master folder, and all these folders just go into this year. So you can archive everything into one folder. So you kind of start fresh the next year. Certainly there will be ones that you want to pull out from here in terms of creating a summer or a fall folder, summer, September folder I usually do. And it was something that we wanted to sort of ask anyone who is participating is, are there particular folders that you create at the end of the year or looking forward to September create that you think that would be helpful for us to kind of think about? I mean, one of the ones that we create is sort of the school year labels, but September startup folders. What are some labels that you think would be helpful for you to create in order to move some of those documents in?
So maybe our friends could add those ideas to the chat, because the chat transcript will be available. I'm just noticing the time, so we can move on and we can share them as they come in.
One of the ones that I know I do at the end of the year as well is I make a quick folder for transferring ownership.
Yes.
For any files that I know I'm going to need to give to somebody else or whatever, that's always a good one to make sure that those ownership pieces are transferred over. And if you're changing schools or anything like that, sometimes that's important.
Yes, thank you, Jocelyn. We will be talking about that as well. So in terms of, which is a great segue, Jocelyn, great segue. So once you have those documents that you put into that folder that Jocelyn was talking about, you want to give that ownership to somebody else. So you can do that obviously just to the document that you have, or you can collate all those documents into a folder, whether it be, the lead teacher in math, or your department head, or your guidance, or maybe a teacher or you're leaving, but you want to leave something for the incoming teacher, right? So it's really clicking on that folder. So whether it be right-clicking on it or going to the chevron and using the share button. And when you use the share button, you can change the shared settings for all the documents in that folder. You don't have to do it one by one. It's everything in that folder. It will sort of make it for all of the documents in there. So you can change shared settings. You can remove certain educators who don't need access to it anymore. You can potentially give temporary access so that maybe they want to copy those files over, right? So you could give a temporary access, or you can just change ownership so someone else now becomes the owner. Or you can restrict it so no one has access to it. So in order to do that, like I said, you would right click and then use the share button. Now, this is one of the things that Kathy mentioned at the beginning with the starred files, and something that I use very, very often in terms of my priority, sort of priority in my drive. So in my drive, especially now during remote learning, my drive is what I go to. It is everything I need operationally for day-to-day school is in my drive. And especially now that we're remote, I don't want to spend time looking for that folder or looking for that document. What I could do, and this is the beauty of Google Analytics, is that priority, as you can see in that left bar that we talked about at the very top, you could see priority. Priority is using machine learning. So almost like the Google Analytics knows and can predict which documents you access the most, and it will make it available to you at the very top of that center area of your Google Drive. Now you can go into settings and you can make it default where anytime you go to Drive, it goes directly to priority or it goes directly to Drive. And I'll show you that when I'm sharing my screen later. But that priority feature is amazing. And then underneath that, you will see workspaces. So in your priority section, you can create workspaces where you have all these documents. I'm going to go one forward and I'll go back, Kathy. You can create these sort of little tables with documents in there that you have access to all the time. What that means is that you can choose folders or files that you need access to, and you can put them in specific workspaces. You don't have to worry. It doesn't move the files. It just allows you to have access to those files. So as we have here, you create a workspace. So my workspace is schoolwork. That's what I called it. And then what I do is I take my folders or files and I add it to that particular workspace. So now in my workspace, I have all these files in there. And then I'll show you that. I will demo that to you after, and I'm going to let Kathy talk about the starred now.
Yeah, we mentioned this a couple times. So just showing you this in a screenshot here. So you see that on the left side of your drive. I use this with things that I'm just currently working on. So if you're working on a document, you just right click and you star it. And then when you can come back, you know, the next day, if you come back and you're like, some days the next day, I come back in the morning, like, what was I even working on? What were my priorities yesterday? So thanks, Danielle, for showing. You just click on the start on the left, and then your current documents come up. So it's helpful. And again, when you're finished working on that document or you finish the collaboration, you're ready to file it away, just make sure that you unstar it. So it's, again, just another helpful tip to allow those files that you've been working on to be found easily. I use that quite a bit. It's just like, it's like a bookmark.
Yes, that's right. And so if I wanted to put VP admin docs in my starred sort of tab, I will go to that folder, right click, and I will say add to starred. That's all I would do. Then when I go back to that section, now I have bookmarked 2 folders. So it's just another way to kind of prioritize and get to that space.
And be careful with this one, because I've sometimes just start so many things, and then when I go to start, I'll have a huge list, and that's not what it's there for. So I would say, you know, rule of thumb, maybe five, no more than 10 folders or files should be in your start. Make sure to unstar it when it's not that priority anymore. You can't have more than 10 priorities going on at one time in your drive.
And that's sort of, I'm going to just turn on my light here. That's sort of the, I don't know if you've noticed, but even though we have so many documents and files in our drive, we actually only tend to probably use maybe even less than 20, maybe 10 to 15 files over and over again, right? So we want to be able to access those quickly. So in terms of priority, as you can see, here's my priority. I click on it and I can see all the files at the top that I go to regularly. So that machine sort of intelligence or analytics, it'll put it on there for me. And underneath it, you can see my workspace. Now, I told you about changing the settings. You can go into this cog settings, and you go into settings, and it kind of allows you to organize your drive a little bit. And at the bottom here, it'll say make priority my default home page. So right now I don't have that checked off, but if I check that off, if I go back to my drive, it will, as you can see, it'll go directly, it'll go directly to my priority. That's where it goes first. So this is what I will see, not my drive. But if I check that off, let's see, and then I probably have to refresh it. For some reason. And then it will go to your drive most often, okay? And then so you see a little bit of a different, you don't see my workspaces here. But I'm going to go to my priority because I want to show you how you can access those go-to documents very easily. So in my priority tab, I have all my priority documents, which I can sort of look at. And at the bottom here, I have my workspaces. So I can create a new workspace. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to create one that says GEG, and I'm going to create it. Okay. And now it'll prompt me now, do you want to add files to it? I can go ahead and do that. And it's already kind of pre-picked based on its machine intelligence, right? So I can click on that and I say, yeah, add that to my files. And then done.
How beautiful is this? I don't know how many people are online that remember back in the day when we would be saving everything and burning everything to CDs, and then the CDs would get lost, or you would be then maybe saving them to the hard drive. I remember once, like, our board actually bought administrators' hard drives. It would be this strange thing that would sit on our desk, and we'd, like, every day we would have to, you'd actually have to move files over there. And they would sometimes crash, and then we kind of moved to the USB, and they were like cute little novelty things, and they would get lost all the time. But now we have this beautiful drive, and things can get lost, but you know they're there.
Yeah, and you can add things, like even if you click on this particular document, so if you have documents that you want to add to multiple workspaces, you could click on the document and you say, you know what, I want that to be added in my GEG, and it goes there as well. If you don't want it anymore, you can hide your workspace, you can remove it, or you can rename it. So I'm just going to remove this workspace for now. And those are the three things that I go to every day. So you can create those little side tables with your documents for easy access. The one thing I do want to share with you that I didn't have a chance to before is the drag and drop that I think is, it's sort of, we all think that we can do it, but I just wanted to demo it for you because, for example, if I wanted to take this, this particular YouTube cards, I can just drag it and drop it into a folder. And then if you have subfolders, then it will kind of open up the subfolders and you can put it in there. So instead of, the hard way is to sort of right click and then say move to, and then it will give you that path. And that's a little cumbersome if it takes a bit of time. But if you already create your parent folders or your subfolders, and then one day you just sit here and you just move them. You just move them to the different folders. It's more efficient, I find, when you're organizing your documents into folders. I think that was the last slide that we had for our workspaces. We're looking at time, we have 9 minutes left. Maybe this is a good time, Kathy, if anyone has any specific questions that they wanted to ask, we can share that with them.
Mm-hmm. I know there was a question early on asked by Peggy, and it was the, you know how you're a part of a Google Classroom and all of the kids' work then becomes part of your Google Drive? Other than just avoiding shared with me because it gives you anxiety, is there any tip for organizing some of that? What do you think?
Maybe Jocelyn, I don't know if you can. I haven't had students. I have access to all of the Google Classrooms at our school. However, what I've done is I've turned off any kind of notifications. But I do see in the shared with me section. Usually in my shared with me section, I usually see those. Mm-hmm. So if I go to shared with me, I would probably see, if I haven't turned off any notifications, as you can see here, students' files. Mm-hmm. But what I try to tell the educators when I work with them in terms of organizing folders is I tell them, don't look at the shared with me. If you are a type A personality like me and need some sort of order, I don't go to shared with me unless I know that someone has actually shared a document with me, and then I search for it. So I
give the exact same advice. Ignore shared with me, pretend it doesn't exist. The only time I use it is if I desperately need to search for something, or I know it was just shared recently. Like, it's going to be easy to find in a quick scroll. Otherwise, I ignore it. But what I did do is, in my actual Google Drive, I made a folder, my own folder, called Shared With Me. I put that in capitals. It's all caps. It's called Shared With Me. And if there was a document that someone shared with me that I didn't really care if I had ownership on it or whatever, then I would put it in there. If I knew that was going to be something that someone shared with me and I was going to come back with me, come back to it a time and again or whatever, I might drag it in there so that that's where it lived. Otherwise, I just ignore it. I just pretend it's not there because I now know, because I use that advanced search feature so much now to go look for things. I just ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing that you'll notice is that the newly shared items will now show up at the top. They never did that before. So train yourself to just look at the top.
Yeah.
I have to say, just if you could please take a minute to fill out the GEG Ontario feedback form. I did throw the link in the chat in case it's easier that way. Otherwise, it's bit.ly/GEGON, all capital and small case feedback. We'd love your feedback. Thank you so much. I had no idea. Jocelyn and I were just sharing in the chat. I didn't know about Workspace. I am so excited. I'm going to go play with that. I am so happy.
I'm going to teach my own team about that on Monday. I'm going to be tomorrow. Superhero.
It's actually revolution. Like, I didn't use it when we were at school as much, but now that I'm working from home and I do need all these spreadsheets, and especially at the end of the year when you have placement meetings or when you have IEP reviews and transition meetings, there are documents with a lot of documents that I have to go and find. Mm-hmm. So initially I would go to my drive, go to my subfolder and find it that way, or search and find it. Mm-hmm. But the Workspace, I just put it in there as I go along and remove it when I don't need it. And it's actually, I've only actively started using it since February, and I love it.
Game changer.
Totally. So the one other thing that we need to share before we leave is that this is our last in this year's learning series, but we do have lots planned. We are hoping to put together a resource of an interactive resource. We're not quite sure what it looks like yet, but we know it's going to be awesome. And it's going to include contributions from a variety of different leaders. So continue to look on Twitter, continue to look to be part of our Gmail. Maybe we can throw that link back up, though I don't have it. The GEG Ontario site, connect with us, get onto our Google group, and we will share that when it becomes available. And if you're interested in joining our team, please look for information on that. And friends, thank you so much, Kathy and Neil. Learned so much. Jocelyn, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us. Thank you very much.
Best of luck with the end of the year. We know it's a really tough go. So we so appreciate you all. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Be well.